know lots of faces in here, but for those of you who don't know me, I'm Nicola Bird. Susan can't be here, she's very sad about that. But we just want to let people know what the community engagement team are doing and also why communities do work with us. So community engagement and diversity are real buzzwords now, but you might not actually know what's happening or the advantages of museums working in the community. So I'm first of all just going to let you know who you are working with, because Susan and I work for all the museums. So this is who your museums are working with. We work with basically everyone from children's centres to care homes, so all ages, all different walks of life, all different types of knowledge about museums, experience about the world. So most of these are obvious, so I won't go through them, but some of them, like the local groups, is not so obvious. So local groups for us can be stroke clubs, through to this one here at the bottom left-hand corner is BK Lua, which is a refugee group, which is based in the Cowley Road. And they are now an international women's group, but they started as a northern Ugandan refugee group in 1999. And we've been working with them for about 3 years. Again, they're quite self-explanatory, but just to let you know, we do work with schools, but not mainstream schools. So we work with Saturday schools, which are supplementary schools. And what's really important about this is that they're schools based usually on nationality and language. So this school is the Sudanese Saturday School, and they meet on a Saturday. So they are people from the Sudanese community in Oxford. It's so the children can learn Arabic and about their culture. And we work with them with all the different museums, but what's more important with us is that we work with the parents. So the parents live in Oxford, they don't come to the museums, the children do come to the museums because of school, but we're trying to make the museums relevant to the parents as well. So we try and see what they would like to do, and I will talk a little bit more about that later. Again, lots of different groups, but what's important here is the young people at risk from exclusion. You may not know what that term refers to. So these are young people. We work with Meadowbrook, which is a school with Oxfordshire County Council. And these young people are at risk from exclusion from school and also social exclusion. They're very vulnerable groups of young people. And this lady here, she had never been to the Ashmolean, and she came in, she thought it was lush. I remember her words, this is absolutely lush. I'm going to bring my boyfriend. We gave them some vouchers for the cafe, so she said, I brought my boyfriend in, we had a hot chocolate, and I showed him around the museum. She didn't even know she was allowed into the museum before that. And just finally covering the people that we work with, you may not know, but we are focusing at the moment on blind and partially sighted people. At the moment, we're spending quite a lot of energies on that through a project funded by the HLF, where we're working with the RNIB on, it's called Sensing Culture. And this is to break down the barriers that are in museums for people who are blind and partially sighted. And this ranges from touch tours to training up staff and volunteers to give audio description as they're talking and describing what they can see. So why do people work with us? This is where we start from. Why do people bother? So we come at it from a very museum point of view, but our community groups don't. They're not in the museum world. They come at it from completely different angles. And it's really important for us to find out what those angles are to make the museums relevant, basically, because we know what we do and we do it well, but we're not reaching out to everyone. And so we're trying to change that role. So just to begin with is learning, which is probably quite heartwarming for everybody. One of the main reasons why people come to the museums with community groups and work with us is because they're accessing learning. This shows, it could be learning knowledge, learning new skills. It could be a new approach to learning, such as object handling, which is this completely fresh approach to learning with many people. And also it's the way people learn is very flexible, and that's really celebrated. And again, things that we take for granted, because we're like, yes, object handling, it's all touchy, we know that people approach it from different angles, but that is what we know, and it's not necessarily what people are accessing all the time. So this image shows the Highfield unit, and this is a secure mental health ward based at the Warneford Hospital. And they did a project with us called Project Dinosaur with the Natural History Museum. And this was giving young people the opportunity to achieve accreditation called an Arts Award. And there was one boy, which his project was considered a turnaround in his recovery. So as he entered the unit, he was finding it even difficult to put his clothes on because he had such serious mental health difficulties. But he latched on to Chris's cartoon drawing, and he really latched onto it, and his recovery happened from that point. He focused and enjoyed the session so much that he was starting to get obviously better, not because of us, but we were the turning point, and was what we were told, to the point that when he left, he started doing charity events to raise money for the unit. So it's it's considered a real success story for them as well as us. Communication. Communication is again something that we take for granted, but communication can be anything from very informal communication, such as just giving people a reason to talk about something, through to more tangible, so communication, so following discourse, which will then get people accreditation in English, or English as for speakers of other languages, their accreditation, which is for the National Qualifications Framework. Good communication skills then are valued by people who then are more confident in interviews and more confident with strangers, and this is all what our partners feed back to us is beneficial to their groups. So this image shows people communicating. Not Zala, you did it. Yes. I did choose on purpose. But this is a celebration event from a very recent project here at the Ashmolean, based around the Manet painting. And this is a celebration event for the Highfield unit, but also for Young Dementia UK. And a lot of the feedback we get is people just enjoy going out, talking to other people, and they like it because it gets them out of the house and it gives them a focus which is not defined by the fact they're mentally ill or they've got dementia or they've had a stroke. The focus is about the object or the painting. Okay, confidence is the next one. This is really celebrated, really hard to evidence though, as many of you know. It could be confidence to talk, confidence to try new things, confidence to speak in front of other people, confidence to just try an accreditation. But this is really highly valued in the fact that there's even from one session, the way people are at the beginning of our sessions through to the end, through to projects, people notice a change in confidence in people. And as you know, confidence will then leads to all other sorts of things. And this shows a group of young parents. So this is budding Oxfordshire parents based at the Barton Children's Centre. And this is a project they did with the NHS very recently. And one of these young parents, these young mums, she would not engage with Susan at all in the first session, sat separate. And by the end of the sixth session, she was the only one who attended all the sessions. And her child was actually sick on the last session, but she sorted out childcare so she could come and finish the project with Susan. And those small steps sound small to us, but they're not small for our partners. They're very important steps. Two more. The next one is empowerment. And this is giving people control of how they represent themselves. So we give people tools. So we've got museums, we've got collections, and allowing people to do what they want with them and being brave a lot of the time. And it is always successful, and I'm very confident in saying that, because people then get out what they want to get out of it. So empowerment, this is BK Lua again. These are the founding members of BK Lua. These women are all Northern Ugandan, and they did a couple of projects with the Pit Rivers. One was painting a giant xylophone, and this April they did a display of their objects at the Pit Rivers. And again, they talk about empowerment and how proud they are to basically show their things to the public. And finally, inclusion is the other sort of area that our partners talk to us about. This is both physical inclusion, such as people who are in hospitals and can't actually get to the museums, but also social inclusion. And this shows the Redbridge Travellers, which are at the bottom of the Abingdon Road. So we work very closely with that group. We've got very strong links with them. And they're very aware of social exclusion of their sort of cultural group. And one of the main women in this group that we work with, she said the experience is nothing but positive because people came and people saw who they are. They didn't see who they are through the media or through someone else's eyes. They had the opportunity to show people who the travellers are through their experience, not through someone else's. So again, highly valued. So just to summarise, sorry, a very long minute. Sorry. Just to summarise, I think community engagement goes beyond just creating a diverse audience to the museums now. It actually gives the museums to have a more diverse role in our community, so it's a whole different focus. We really do work alongside. We don't tell people what they're going to do anymore. Instead, we work with them and we just allow them to do what they want to do. We obviously have to be governed by ethics, by the realities, by technician time and things like this, but it's really empowering and it does make huge differences out in the community. And what I find more importantly, it gives the role, they work with the museum, and instead of seeing them coming to us, they now see the museums as part of their community, so it's a whole different change in how we look at each other. Any questions?